Hello, everybody. Brett here, and we're back, but now we're not in Stony Brook anymore. Everyone has returned home after an incredible conference, it sounds like, and I'm joined today by Marian Rich. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for doing this. It's a great project.
It is, yeah. Oh, good. I'm glad. Seems like a lot of people have enjoyed it, and we've definitely enjoyed doing it as well, so good. So, Marian, you led a workshop at the conference. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. I co-led the workshop with Dr. Carrie Loebman, my very dear colleague and friend, and the workshop was called Playing Around with Changing the World. As I said to Caitlin McClure, it's part of the research we're doing because Carrie and I submitted a proposal for a chapter in volume 2 of the Applied Improvisation book.
Wow, volume 2, that's amazing. I didn't realize they were already coming out with a second one. Yeah.
There's one with my, things on all my favorite chapters. But anyway, so this was a workshop to share work that I do in a program called at the East. I'm sorry, that lamp is glaring in my eye.
Okay.
At the Eastside Institute, which is a training institute based here in New York, but we train activists, educators, healthcare workers, all kinds of people from all different fields who want to learn a performance-based approach to human development. So we use play, performance, and improvisation to help people grow. A lot of people know Kathy Salet and Performance of a Lifetime. It's a training center for the methodology that Kathy wrote about in her book, as she calls it, The Becoming Principle. But this is applied in many, many settings. So for applied improv practitioners in corporate, it looks one way. But if you're working with people who want to change the world, which we all do, I think that was really clear this weekend.
Yeah, frankly. I bet.
Just given the moment we're living in human history, I was, as a long-time 35-year community organizer activist, I was very excited by that. And I was on the program committee for the conference, and going into the conference, we certainly wanted that to be part of what we're engaging, how people like us can use improvisation and these incredible tools to make social change, as well as change within organizations and change within human beings.
Yeah.
It's all connected because it's a big world and we're changing the world. But in this program, it's called the International Class.
Okay.
It's a 10-month immersion program to learn all that we do. And there are 3 residencies in New York City, and the rest of the time there's Zoom calls and readings and things. And during those 3 residencies, I run an improv workshop. I usually do 1 or 2 each residency. And they're very unique workshops because we're taking the things that people are grappling with in their work, and we're playing with them.
Right.
So, we certainly did an overview of the program and who's been in the program, how they've used it. So my favorite story that we shared, which I'll share here, is one of our graduates, Paola Lopez, lives in El Paso, and another one of our graduates, or a number of our graduates, Miguel, Jorge, I can't remember all the names, but they live in Juarez, which is across the border in Mexico.
Right.
So El Paso is where the mass shooting took place last week.
Yeah.
And they are doing amazing work across the border. And last week they had scheduled a group play session, which is some of the work that Paola and other colleagues do, and devoted that entire session to playing with people's grief, people's shock, people's despair, people's hopelessness, people's fear. And that's a very good example of what we mean when we say playing around with changing the world, because these are the things that are in our world.
Yeah.
So at one point in our workshop, we did gather a list of, we had asked participants, we had an hour and a half, which was great.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Thanks to Jude and our programming committee. Okay, I had a little bit of an impact there. I'm on that committee.
Yeah.
And we asked people, what's getting in the way of changing the world? What do you think is getting in the way? And there were things like alienation, income inequality, borders, polarization, racism. I mean, so many issues.
Yeah.
And at the very end of the workshop, we broke into groups, and each group, we gave people 5 minutes to create any kind of performance they wanted to create based on that list and what we had done in the workshop. And I wish I could show you the videos. They're beautiful, and I do want to post them. They were, not surprisingly, just brilliantly creative and funny, serious. It was really wonderful. Yeah. The other thing we did is I wanted to give an example of what I would typically do in a workshop, and I created a scene between two people where somebody had said something that triggered, this happened in one of the classes where two of the students, someone said something and the other person felt triggered by what the person said and was upset. And you know, these are classes with people from around the world. So you've got cultural differences, different ways of communicating, assumptions people make about each other, Europeans and Americans and people from Asia or Africa or East Asia, where they don't feel seen or heard. And I think it was something along those lines. And I had a plan for the class, but when I walked in, the executive director of the program, Lois Holzman, pulled me aside and said, "We had this situation before you came. It was pretty upsetting. We've had a very intense conversation." And together the class at some point said, well, maybe Marian can play with this, which was a beautiful offer.
Yeah.
Because that's what we do. We play with, in Kathy Salet's book, Performance Breakthrough, she has a chapter called Creating with Crap. That's what we got. So we got to do something. We got to create with it, build with it. So I did exactly what I did in that class. I set up a series of scenes. So I set up the same scene. I called two people up and I said, okay, you're cleaning up after a dinner party. You, one of you had a very upsetting interaction with a guest and it really triggered you in whatever way you come up with. The other person loves that guest. It's like their best friend, you know, to create conflict. And I had never done this, of course, with applied improvisation. People who were, you know, superb improvisers. And so it was interesting because they took it to some new places, just how they did the improv. But I think what I learned from the participants in our workshop at the conference is that I do a lot of side coaching. So I'll freeze, you know, give some direction and have them go back to it. And a lot of what I'm doing is looking for the moments where people are not staying with the relationship, the relationality. Right. So so we're trying to change the world, and you're talking with people. So here in the United States, not to be overly focused on the US, people who are more progressive minded don't even want to talk to Trump supporters.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So that's one way it looks in this national sector, in this country.
Yeah.
But we have to learn how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a pull to move away when you're disagreeing. It's like, but what we think is we have to move in. We have to follow our curiosity. We have to find out more about the person. There were also moments, and the two was Sylvia from Spain and Carolyn here from the US. They were beautiful to work with, really taking this in and really doing, it was very hard work. I'm very demanding as the coach. Yeah. And I went to, just sidebar, I went to an open space with Gary Schwartz, who's an expert in Viola Spolin's work. And he talked a lot about the role of the coach and the side coach. And I felt very supported by the things that Gary said, because I'm not doing this as an authoritarian knower. I'm really just trying to be in there with people and give them a new kind of experience of relationality and a new way of being with others that does demand we go beyond our own boundaries or borders or the things we think we can do. We can go further. We can give more. We can fully embrace these offers. They are offers. They might not be the offers we want, but if you're a good improviser, you got to build with it anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So I think people, I've gotten some very good feedback.
Oh, good.
People, felt hopeful. I mean, that's the other thing, is the hope. We also did a learning journey on Wednesday at the All Stars Project, which is part of a broad community that the East Side Institute is part of here in New York, that we've built over the last 40 years, myself and many, 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 many colleagues. And there were a number of us at the conference, and a lot of people know our work. And we had 30 AIN folks at the All Stars Project, which is another version of some of the work we do. We work with young people from the poor communities and use play, performance, and improv to help them grow. And similarly, we work with all the crap they have to deal with in their lives, being poor, being people of color, young people who don't have the opportunities that I had when I was growing up. And David Koff, a colleague who was at the conference, said to me afterwards, we went out for a quick bite to eat, and he said, I needed that. I needed that. I mean, we had a mass shooting days ago. I'm feeling hopeless. I feel hopeless. Wow. And that alone made my day. Because we need to know this is our world. We can change it. And we're the people who are going to do it, because we're going to play around with it.
Yeah.
Not going to just, don't mourn, organize. I say, don't mourn, play.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think people pull away from play because they think, oh, it's silly. It's not, it's just a bit of fun and laughter, but it can, like you're saying, it can go so much deeper and make such a big impact.
Indeed.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much. Unfortunately, that is our time up. Let's say we have 1 minute left. What would your sort of, your main message or your main success of this whole workshop be, since you were part of the organizing team as well?
Of this workshop?
Sorry, the conference. Yeah.
Well, I can talk from the we as the committee.
Yeah,
and
sure.
I can say for me, I think for the we had never AIN had never partnered, and in this case with the Alan Alda Center for Communicating Science. So we wanted to reach out to people who have not been at a conference before, create, having Alan Alda on stage with Aretha Sills, mind-blowing. Yeah. So I'm sure someone else has talked about that, or many people have.
Yeah.
But we had a lot of new people to AIN. That's thrilling. Great. And for me personally, I'll go back to the first thing I said. I felt, and I've seen a lot of posts on Facebook, we're changing the world. Yeah. That's my message. We need to make this a planet that we can live on, that other creatures can live on, and that will be here for a long time. Yeah. And sometimes I like to think of myself as a play revolutionary and a love revolutionary, because it's love that guides us, and you really felt that at the conference.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I love you all.
I get the feeling that everyone has a very similar message right now of love out there too. So yeah. Well, congratulations on such a successful conference and workshop. And I hope to potentially meet you next year in Spain. Very exciting to hear that new announcement.
Olé!
Olé!